Questions about how to tell the story of the past are not unique to 2020, nor are they unique to the United States. Today we'll visit two San Francisco monuments that tell a story linked across continents and through centuries. This is a monument to the Kanrin Maru, the first Japanese ship to come to the United States. The monument is a stone slab overlooking the Golden Gate, which the Kanrin Maru triumphantly entered at the end of its voyage. The inscription reads, Kanrin Maru, Nyuko Hyaku nen Kinen hi, Osaka Shicho Nakai Matsuji. Kanrin Maru, the 100th anniversary of its entry, written by the mayor of Osaka, Matsuji Nakai. In 1854, the United States sent warships into Tokyo Bay to force Japan to open up to Western trade. The advanced technology and military might demonstrated by those ships was a wake-up call. Japan had watched countries across Asia being dominated and conquered by Western colonial powers and did not want to become the next victim. They ordered the Kanrin Maru, built by the Dutch, and used it to learn about Western naval technology. In 1860, they sailed here. The voyage had three goals: to establish diplomatic relations with the United States, to learn about Western science and technology, and to become the first ship crewed by all Japanese people to cross the Pacific Ocean. Here in the United States, the crew and passengers of the Kanrin Maru were wined and dined by high society and met all kinds of famous and influential people, including the president. Several of the men on the ship would come to be influential in the rapidly modernizing Japan following the Meiji Restoration. This monument was dedicated on the 100th anniversary of the voyage in 1960 to celebrate the newly created sister city relationship between San Francisco and the port city of Osaka. Keep that sister city idea in mind, it's going to come up later. The story of Japan's modernization is a tribute to the genius and dedication of the Japanese people. Japan is one of the only non-white countries which was never dominated or colonized by the West. In the 100 years between the voyage of the Kanrin Maru and the dedication of this monument, something else happened though. Japan didn't only learn about science and technology from the West. The rulers of Japan saw that the military power and wealth of the West came through colonization and imperialism. Around the same time as the United States was conquering the Philippines and Hawaii, Japan conquered Taiwan and Korea. These two empires faced off across the Pacific at one another and would end up on the opposite sides of a world war a few generations after the voyage of the Kanrin Maru. Now, let's head across San Francisco to Chinatown to visit another monument which captures the intertwined story of Asia, United States, and Japan. Called the Column of Strength, this sculpture by Stephen White depicts three girls standing together in unity as a wise grandma looks on. It is a memorial to women used as sex slaves by the Japanese army during World War II. The popular term comfort women comes from a translation of the Japanese word ianfu, but this is a euphemism. These women were slaves. The practice of using women from occupied nations as sex slaves began in the 1930s and continued until the end of World War II. Estimates of the amount of women used for this practice range from 100,000 to 400,000, with most middle estimates being around 200,000 women. Many of the women were tricked into the practice by offers of work in factories or education. Others were sold by collaborationist local authorities. They were brought into brothels officially organized by the Japanese military. The women were taken from many places, but primarily from three countries: China, Korea, and the Philippines, represented by the three women in this statue. After it was built, the mayor of Osaka, Hirofumi Yoshimura, ended the sister city relationship between San Francisco and Osaka that had existed for 60 years. He echoed far-right talking points, saying the number of women used as comfort women was actually much lower, and that these women weren't coerced, but rather volunteers. Much like public memory in America glosses over issues of Indian genocide or slavery, public memory in Japan has yet to fully reckon with its fascist past. Though there is a strong left-wing tradition and many activists today are working against fiends like Yoshimura. A few years ago, Japan's best-known living author, Haruki Murakami, traveled to Israel to give a talk, a country he felt was responsible for severe injustices against the Palestinian people. He gave a beautiful speech that began with a simple principle. Between a high solid wall and an egg that smashes against that wall, I will always stand on the side of the egg.